I was like, what? I didn't even think about that. She's like, what? It's like, you're promoting. I was like, oh, I didn't even, that's crazy. Is that what women think when they see that?
Wow.
But now think about it, right? And I played down. I was like, so when I put thick gang across, oh my God, women are perverts.
I should have just put thick print.
If I would have known.
Welcome to Thicc Boy Fight Club. I'm your Balkan boy.
I'm Tyson the Beast.
And today we're talking
What everyone's been talking about is the Woodley Jake Paul fight. So usually what we like to do is after a big fight or leading up to a big fight, do a one-on-one kind of discuss it. First of all, though, let's do our sponsors and shout-outs. Top Mutt Studios.
Kangen Water,
Bearded
Clinch
Bites,
Culture, Bearded Bites, Blessed Edibles,
Major Pack, Gas Dank, Just for Kicks. Who am I missing? Kimura, Mo Mind. Who else?
Yeah, man, thank you.
Yeah, thank you to all of them.
Smart Guards.
Smart Guards, yes. Restaurant shout of the week, who's yours?
I went to like a French restaurant, La Palette, but it was pretty affordable, cheap. It's like a wine, used to be a wine shop turned into a restaurant, and they had I tried all kinds of stuff on the menu. So it was good. They had horse steak. I pulled the ovary, had some horse steak.
Horse steak?
Yeah. I tried all kinds of stuff. There was duck. I was like, it was good. It's right on Queen and Spadina near that spot I work. So it was good.
Okay. I think we already did do the shot for Locker Still. So I'm going to do another spot. I went to another sushi place, Sushi for You. Another place right there on Lakeshore in Etobicoke.
How many sushi spots we got?
Dude, it's nuts. Like, so I realized, because I remember somebody else brought up this place and they're like, oh, like that area is known for just having sushi places everywhere. And now, like, I'll just drive and look, and now I'm seeing there's a whole other place I'm gonna go try tonight or tomorrow. Same thing. It's like right down the street. So there's like, but Sushi for You had a really good dragon roll. Like I said, I'm trying to compare them all. Simon Sushi is usually the home base. So I'm trying to compare them all. But like, I saw like another one I'm gonna go try now. I bet if I go west, there's a whole bunch I haven't even seen yet either. So I guess it's just the land. Etobicoke Lakeshore.
So the sushi spot, what'd you get there?
I got the dragon roll. I always try the dragon, or like if they have a dragon, rainbow, or Las Vegas roll, because
What's a Las Vegas roll?
It depends. Some people make it differently, but it's like crab meat with depending on where you get it from, they might have cream cheese and thing. But that's usually a good standard. You can tell if the place gives you a lot if those rolls are big. So I like the kind of the over the top big rolls. You know what I mean? Like real thick boy style. Phallon told me I'm looking wide, so clearly it's working.
I'm enjoying all the indoor dining I can while we still can.
But we're going to talk about that some other time. We're going to get Chris Skyler or something. But so the Jake Paul Woodley fight, what's your response? Like, first of all, what did you think of the judges scoring? Did you think it was a split decision? Did you agree with? What was your thought?
No, I probably gave it unanimous Jake Paul, even though like from a fighting standpoint, Tyron Woodley did take over at the end of the fight, and I felt like he probably could have put him, got him out of there if he put more pressure on him. I mean, in hindsight, but I think Jake managed to put up enough of a lead that he won that fight.
Yeah, I scored it 5-3, and even that third one, I can be honest, was me more pulling for Woodley than me. I watched it again a second time, and I can see why that sixth round is an up or down. Fourth round for sure when he hurt him. Fifth round, I picked.
Yeah, he almost dropped him. I think the ropes really did save him, but he didn't go down. He didn't go down. And I think Jake proved that he can fight.
No, but so there are certain times where if the ropes do keep you up and the ref sees it that way, they will count it. That one I can kind of agree with what Woodley is saying. I think for how fast it happened, I don't think the ref saw it that way. Like when you look in slow-mo, it looks like, okay, he probably would have fallen. Being a ref, that it was the way he bounced back so quick.
But you could get knocked into the ropes and just like, bounce. And even if you're hurt and you bounce right off the ropes, do you really count that as a knockdown?
He didn't have a crazy hurt look on his face after he was talking to him. And if you watch it again, Woodley came in and got hurt by Paul. And literally Paul, like he
I think Woodley just has a better poker face. He's been doing this longer. I think the first time Jake's been hit like that in a real fight.
I think people are being hard on Woodley about that round. When I rewatched, I'm like, when he came in and tried to do it, like people got to remember, like he was going against a guy who has a good counter, who's longer, and he got countered a couple times. Like, and he was
a lot smaller.
Yeah, so I remember I was watching like Steve Wonder. But I listen. I understand as MMA guys were obviously would have wished it would have went a little differently. But Wonderboy was talking about the fight, and this guy's got to remember he had a split decision draw, I think, and then a loss to Woodley off kind of the same thing. Like, I don't think people still are giving Jake Paul enough respect, and they don't realize it's only gonna keep it going longer. Like, if you're implying that Woodley either didn't come in shape or isn't this, you're gonna keep implying that he's not legitimate. He's gonna keep getting these big fights, right? Like, I think this idea.
Do you think he keeps fighting?
Oh yeah, he already made it. Like, he said he might want to take some time off. He said he might retire, and then he already says come back. I think at his age, I think.
I mean, the paydays that are available to him now.
And what else do you do? Like,
after seeing that, like, do you even want to see him box Conor McGregor?
8 rounds. 8 rounds. How many guys that early in their career go 8 rounds? Tommy Fury is 7-0 and went 4 rounds in the same card.
Isn't it weird how Tommy Fury was the lowest paid guy on the card? Whoa.
It kind of
you
makes
think that
sense.
was like a petty thing on Jake's part? Because it was that thing you heard about Jake trying to spread the purse so that everybody got paid more.
Who else would he deserve more than, right? You can't say he deserved more than the 2 females. Obviously, the main event. Montana Love and that other guy was a big fight. Both had more pro fights. And then you have that heavyweight who was making his debut. So it makes sense. Like, and it was still his biggest payday. You know what I mean?
That was still his biggest payday?
Dude, he said he made sure every single person on the card, it was their biggest payday.
So he found their previous
and made sure it topped all of it. He said it was a point. So he literally took a pay cut. And I think so one person was his own teammate, the Bellator guy, and he still would have made more if Jake gave him less because he fights on Bellator, right? You know the contracts are like. So yeah, he made it a whole point. And so
that guy made 40 G's.
This is why I'm a fan of what's going on. One, I hope he eventually fights Anderson Silva because I would love to see Anderson get another huge payday. I would love, and I would love to, if somebody's going to beat him, how great would it be for Anderson Silva to end his career beating Chavez Jr. and then beating Jake Paul?
Like Jake Paul,
2 of your biggest paydays. Like, how much of a storybook ending could
Conor
that be?
looks too small to be going against Jake.
But you know what? It goes crazy. That'd be a bigger pay than he could get in the UFC.
For sure.
And we all know that.
For sure.
Bro, he made his biggest payday and he was on his feet. Would you rather fight Michael Chandler coming back?
There's no one else that you would rather fight.
Now, Jake Paul,
top 50, anyone in the top 20 in the UFC.
Jake Paul could knock his head the fuck off, though, to be fair. And so we're saying this.
Wow, that is your statement. There you go.
I mean, who have you ever seen do that to Ben Askren?
A knee doesn't count. That's right.
I mean, you can count the knee, but
a knee doesn't count. A knee doesn't really. Yeah,
it was his biggest payday, but he also was the most vicious knockout we've seen outside of the knee to the head, right? And that was like a highlight reel of all time. Like, outside of that, what's the worst you've seen Ben Askren hurt? So it's very possible the worst knockout we could ever see.
Jake's really learning how to play the game in boxing.
Well, look, I think it's good for MMA fighters, and even with us coming up with Vitor Belfort and De La Hoya.
That's
same situation. How many of these guys this can be basically a retirement plan, right? Wouldn't you love to see Chris Weidman go make some big payday after this? I love seeing
these types of retirement plans way better than I want to see fighters head to bare knuckle.
Right?
I always find that so sorry that I even laughed. It's actually really sad.
Well, we know a lot of guys who do it, right?
You know what I mean?
Shout out to Jason. I was fighting in Omaha bare knuckle, by the way.
But when you're seeing guys that have been fighting for so long, Diego Sanchez just signed to fight bare knuckle.
I'd much rather see Diego Sanchez in a boxing match than knocked out by Jake Paul for $1 million.
And then or
500,000 even.
100,000.
I would take it.
Walk off.
And even Ben Askren, remember, he got to get his 10 seconds. He got to get up. That's another thing people forget is that Ben Askren wasn't fully asleep. Masvidal hit him multiple times after he was already asleep.
Yeah.
That's what MMA is. Boxing, he got his 10 seconds and the ref saved him. Period. The ref could have fell back and be like, let's get another highlight reel, and the ref saved him. Conor McGregor, they didn't have to save him on his feet. The referee could have said, I want to see this MMA guy on the ground. And the referee saved him. So it's a way better contingency plan than, like I said, fighting 50 times. Like when BJ Penn was fighting all these recent times. Like, same thing. I'd rather see BJ Penn in a boxing match.
Yeah, it's not like there's a Legends League in the UFC or somebody doing it. Sometimes they match guys up that are 2 legends at the end of their careers for a big payday. But most of the time, the UFC likes to use those guys as stepping stones for the next guys coming up. And and it's like,
it's sad.
That's the sport. That's the game. If those guys still think they can be the best in the world, then that's just nature, and that's just how it's gonna be. But once they lose a couple fights like that, if there is no like a league for them to be fighting other masters divisions, then why not fucking have a boxing fight?
Well, how about this?
Make a few $1 million.
This Nick Diaz, Robbie Lawler fight, right? They're fighting MMA now. People bring up their age, but like these are two very dangerous men still. And big question has always been made about Nick's mental health these last few years. There's, at one point he was fully partying, looked like he was fully done. He's had some crazy rants. I don't know if I'd rather see Robbie Lawler knock him out than Jake Paul for what he's like.
Is it weird? I see that.
I'd rather see him boxing
because I see that either going like Nick Diaz comes back like a monster,
I feel like
savage,
it's dark for somebody,
or Robbie's gonna just.
It's gonna be dark for somebody. I just don't see how that fight. I'd be very surprised if that fight goes through. I think it's gonna be.
There's some exciting UFC fights coming up. That's for sure.
Yeah, and like I have to ask myself, like, would it be better for him to take the money he would make boxing Jake Paul? Nick Diaz versus Jake Paul would be a huge boxing match. And for his career, I'd rather see
Nate Diaz probably makes more sense for Jake Paul.
Oh, but because he's still so competitive in his age, the UFC, there'd be no reason to ever let him do it. Of course, but like at least with Nick Diaz, it's been so many years. He's older. Let him get that huge payday and walk off. With Nate can still generate a lot of money and be
I think he's a huge superstar.
Nick Diaz, they didn't make it a main event for a reason, right? So Nate's still main event level. It makes sense to keep him. So like the GSP thing, I was very surprised they didn't let him do the De La Hoya thing, right? Like I understand you hate De La Hoya, but man, GSP deserves that. He deserves that payday. Big payday. He deserves that attention, like in my personal opinion. And
I heard they tried to rope him in with the Khabib fight, but like I don't want to see that, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, who's happier than Vitor Belfort that Dana White did that, right? Like, and for me, I look at it this way: it's like
who's happier than Tyron Woodley right now?
That's my point.
This guy's getting Jake Paul's name tattooed on his thigh.
So is he actually doing it?
I think he's like in his head. He's like, this is worth $5 million. Another $5 million.
My concern is that because it was already a bet and there was that Jake Paul makes him do it and then doesn't fight him anyway.
Yeah, Jake Paul could be like literally
let it linger for a month where he has the tattoo and then be like, never mind. And then by that time, for a whole month, there's content of. That's my concern about Woodley Gang is I don't want Jake's a finagler. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't, you know what I mean? And if I'm his management, I'm not taking that rematch. I see zero reason there's no upside for Jake Paul to rematch Tyron Woodley, in my opinion. As his manager, there's zero upside. But you watched him get hurt. He went 8 rounds.
Tyron Woodley's going to figure out a better game plan to beat you the next time.
I'm not playing with that again. For what?
Yeah, for what? Yeah.
And you didn't even have to fight a guy that tough. Like, let's be honest. Tommy Fury, you fought a less athletic, less notable MMA version of Woodley. That Anthony...
How do you think Tommy Fury would do against Jake Paul?
Brother, who looked more impressive against their competition? I look at 2 MMA guys, Woodley and this guy who's never won a championship. Who looked more impressive?
Yeah, obviously.
I think he could beat Fury. I don't know.
Between that guy fighting Tyron Woodley, I don't even know. What's his name, by the way?
So this is what I think is going to happen. And I think Jake Paul would be genius for this, and I think he knows it work. I think you get Woodley and Tommy Fury as your co-main event on your next fight. It's neither of them are going to turn down.
That makes sense.
Neither going to turn down. Everyone
you can market it as the winner gets a shot at Jake Paul.
Everyone involved in this wants to see that question because you're hearing that's the 2 arguments you're seeing. The people want to see Jake Paul lose, right? Their argument is they want to see those 2 fights because you want to see him lose. I get it. But if you're like a fan...
At this point, he's pissed off boxing community and the MMA community.
So
he's outboxing MMA guys.
What better way? What better way to trick them into this? I think he's looking at this Vitor Belfort De La Hoya fight because this is the thing. I don't think you fight Vitor if he wins because he's juiced to the gills. Like if he has some vision out. But if De La Hoya like outboxes Vitor, I think you'd go after De La Hoya if you're.
I mean, this is the state of combat sports. I never really thought that I'd be talking about Jake Paul the way we are like right now.
Vitor Belfort, De La Hoya.
But I mean,
we're in the twilight zone, bro. Between what's going on in the actual world and like this conversation, Vitor Belfort versus De La Hoya, like
I never would have seen that coming.
Even at their peak, let's say 2007, it sounds crazy still. Like,
wow.
At no point...
I want to see the most TRT'd Vitor, like you said.
Have you seen the videos and pictures?
Oh, my God. He looks just jacked.
But now De La Hoya is looking like he's on some new supplements, too.
Yeah.
Both
he looks like his head grew.
So, if I'm Jake Paul, I don't fight Vitor if he wins because you don't know how dangerous Vitor really is. Like, let's say he knocks out De La Hoya.
And Vitor was known as a boxer. Don't forget, he was wasn't he like a... He was
like undefeated for a while. He was like 11-0 at one point, and he had like mad knockouts. He was a boxer. Just like... what's his name? The Cuban that Woodley that was after Woodley recently, Hector Lombard. Yeah. He had a good. I wouldn't.
Anderson Silva had a pro boxing record.
But let's say De La Hoya outboxes Vitor and Vitor doesn't look good. I think you go after De La Hoya. I mean,
Imagine
that would
beating a former world champion like that.
and this is what's interesting about that. This
Olympic
is where you could
medalist.
drag out a Floyd Mayweather. I'm not being funny, and I think a lot of fight fans,
Because Jake wants a real fight. He doesn't want an exhibition match, right?
oh yeah, exactly. And this is the other thing is, I don't think people really understood how popular this kid was. I didn't know who Jake Paul was before all this. I knew about
Jake
his
Paul's a
brother.
lot bigger than Floyd, man.
But that fight would have the possibility to break one of Floyd's records. And I think if Jake Paul was able to do something like that, I could see Mayweather's ego pulling him out of retirement. And I'm sorry, I hate to say it, at Floyd Mayweather's age and his size and watching how he looked against his brother, who's not even close to as good, that could be a dangerous fight. And I know people think I'm crazy.
The things you're saying, it's crazy.
I'm sorry, bro. Tyron Woodley, I don't think you realize how
like,
athletic he is. Like, I know he didn't look good against MMA, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't think you guys realize how small Floyd Mayweather is. Like, what's the most damage he's able to do to Logan, who has Logan even won a fight yet?
No.
Logan's losing to YouTubers. This guy's beating MMA world champions.
How much size would you say Floyd gave up to Logan? 65 pounds, 70 pounds?
Something crazy. Now, Logan's a little bit bigger than his brother, but
no, Jake's
not
pretty
even close
big,
as dangerous.
You know? And you think Jake's on PEDs too?
So I think his brother might be, but so I don't know. I don't like the whole eye testing because I don't think he has the look, but I also know that that's not a fair way to judge it. I've learned a lot about that. Like, people getting caught who don't even, like, I never would have thought Anderson Silva was
because
on
like
steroids.
people can argue like he's young, he's growing still, but
I think it's an unfair argument so early in the
still.
guy's career, and for him to look at, I'm like, man, if just being that athletic is the standard, are you saying like everybody's on? I'm not that impressed with his athleticism to that point.
Yeah, but steroids
That's just
don't
me.
always necessarily make you more athletic.
Exactly.
You know what I
So
mean?
I don't know.
There's a peak to your athleticism potentially.
I'm
right,
not
based on
impressed with him enough to I don't know. That's just me. Like, I feel like I grew up with a lot of guys who were better athletes in high school. I'm just not, to me, that's not overwhelmingly impressive to where it was such a conversation. I was confused by that. To be honest with you, I was like, damn, like his brother looks like it. And that's another thing. Like, if you guys share the same genetics, you're both athletic, your brother's vascular as hell, he's ripped. I don't understand how if you're on steroids, you wouldn't even, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's my thing. And you're both athletic. So I don't know how your genetics could be that different where your brother looks like that on or off, and you're on steroids, and he doesn't have like a six-pack.
You're on the Jake Paul sauce now, eh?
Yeah, I just look at that match. I look at the Tommy Fury situation. I look at the fight that De La Hoya is taking with Vitor. Can you name a bigger match if he fought De La Hoya?
I mean, he's doing all the right things, and it's hard for real fighters, not to rate him because behind the scenes, all the things he's doing with the way he's paying guys more, with the way he's addressing fighter pay in the UFC, how he's going after Dana White.
Whether it's sincere or not, I don't care.
I don't care if it's sincere.
Even
it's
bringing
like a lawyer.
Attention. I don't care if you're sincere. It's like,
if you're bringing attention to it and making a change, like he's literally was like, probably for publicity's sake, but he's paying GoFundMe pages for those girls, the UFC fighters, paying off their camps.
Embarrassing, brother.
I mean, it's embarrassing. Because we are professional athletes, we know how hard it is to be an MMA fighter and to get to the highest level, and that you're in the UFC at the highest level, and you don't even have enough money to
fresh
train.
Off an amazing performance, biggest win of his career, brings up being broke. Are you noticing now every fighter now is talking about pay? Yeah. It's not a coincidence. Yeah. They're emboldened by him.
And my friend Josh Hill used to always advocate that he doesn't understand how MMA is a sport where you don't have a base salary when you make it to a big league. No. Like, how are you in the NHL, the NFL, the NBA? You get a base salary. And, I mean, granted, you're supposed to fight a certain amount of times a year, and they treat them like independent contractors that are also contracted. I mean...
So this is the only reason I defend the UFC at that point is this. The UFC is not a league, it's a promotion. And it's just like boxing. This is why boxers make so much money now, though, right? So, like... People have to understand, you want to be able to pull off what Floyd did and make $100 million, you can't really be attached to a league, right? So, like, MMA needs its time to get to that point. Dude, Conor McGregor made way more money in the first 30 years of the UFC's existence than any boxer can say
it's hard to argue,
in 1920, you know? So we have...
What other league has health insurance? I think Bellator just brought theirs in like maybe a year ago.
Yeah, and so it's the difference between being... in
the States, that matters a lot.
A promotion or a league, and the UFC is a promotion. Boxing is a bunch of promoters, right? Like, people
But the UFC has always been trying to move towards, like with the PI Center, trying to be like the Performance Institute and giving all those resources to the fighter.
Yeah, I give the UFC more credit because there'd be no MMA if these guys didn't sacrifice so much. Bro, you read those old stories about...
But hopefully someone like Jake Paul eggs on enough change that fighters do get a bigger split, or they do get paid enough that they're not over here
Well, this
like
is why I'm
starting
confused.
GoFundMe pages so they can pay off their training
This is why I'm
expenses.
confused by
And they're
MMA's
fighting
reaction.
the biggest organization in the world at the highest pinnacle of the sport.
Yeah, like remember people's reaction to Conor McGregor? Same thing. Like, why is MMA so against the big mouth guys who are bringing us money? Like, boxing, like for instance, Andre Ward, Floyd Mayweather. There's a reason some people listen to this don't even know who Andre Ward is. You have to remember, being talented was never enough in boxing. You had to have a mouth or you had to be a killer. You're either Gervonta Davis, Mike Tyson, even Mike Tyson was a character, or you have a big mouth. If you're just good and undefeated, Joe Calzaghe, 15-0. What's the biggest payday he ever had? Andre Ward. True. Like, I can go through a list of undefeated boxers that none of you guys cared about because they were humble and quiet. I'm sorry, Muhammad Ali, let's be honest. If you actually look at his record, take away the character, I'm sorry. It's not as memorable as y'all want to admit.
Those guys, they allow the other guys that are good enough to fight them to get big paydays.
That need their attention.
You know what I mean? They need their attention. They need their spotlight.
And this is actually, people are going to laugh at me for this, but it literally reminds me of what we're doing here. So this is a kid who made all this money. He, he had a rap career, YouTube. He's already rich. He lived in LA, right? He
was part of Disney.
He's had the pinnacle of what 99% of fighters don't even get to. For him to choose this life, his brother, same thing. And to hear them both talk about how much this changed their life, about the path they're on. Like, this is literally the shit we preach, like, which is the idea that, like, if you can start looking at your training like almost like your profession, you don't have to actually become a fighter. Like, it is life-changing. So watch two millionaires who've had it all. They have women, like, you just name it. Like, by the age of 24, name one thing that Jake Paul didn't have.
Yeah.
Why are you choosing to go to Puerto Rico and spend 8 weeks in a hot, air-conditioned gym? Yeah, and live this way,
and not ending up in rehab in Cabo or something.
What is it about those first few years of peak fame and riches and women that you are now that you've had that, you're willing to choose this life? What is it about it?
But some people are attracted to the warrior lifestyle.
Exactly. I think more people are attracted to it than they realize. Like, for instance, I made this comment about how I didn't like that Tyron Woodley was making rap videos, doing stuff in the studio. Like, I didn't like that he was doing that during camp. The OT Genesis video. And people are like, give me crap, like, oh, you can multitask, but it's like, but that could have been the difference between you beating this kid, right? That day you were at the video with all the women and the 40, even if you weren't drinking, it's still time wasted energy. He was in some hot ass gym in Puerto Rico. It's those days that make a difference in camp, and that's why I said, I feel like Tyron Woodley is.
Because that was a very winnable fight for Tyron Woodley. Let's be realistic.
And at Tyron Woodley's age 39, because he's never, like, I feel like he's chasing a lifestyle that this kid had at 21 and realized isn't shit. Like, that's what I looked at it as. I was like, so wait, one person is an actual millionaire already, has the houses, has the cars, has the women.
Very good perspective.
And he's choosing to be in this hot ass gym. You've had a little bit of fame, but you've never had it. But and then here you are making rap videos with 1942 bottles of women. It's like, it's very telling, right, about the mind state they're in. And that right there for me was a problem with Tyron. I'm like, this kid already knows that shit's a waste. If Tyron, let's say, makes $10 million, after a year of that life, he probably feel the same way.
But he hasn't experienced that.
Exactly. That's why I feel like Floyd Mayweather's the way he is. I feel like Floyd had his time, and he never really drank, so his discipline is ridiculous. But let's say it was just women. I think maybe there was a time period in his life when he took those 2 years off where he realized, like, oh, like, this is boring. Like, I have $200 million. This one, like, this is boring.
It's like what the great philosopher Alan Watts said. You could sit on the perfect beach, grapes being fed to you. Everything's perfect. You're in the most luxurious place, but after a while, that comfort, it would just get boring, and you would ask for something else, something unexpected to happen to you, or some kind of challenge that you have to seek out for, and and that's. Jake probably realizes that.
Remember, I told you, like, some of the best. I told you why. My favorite thing when we used to go to those trips in Panama is, like, it's different when you used to go on spring break and, like, literally by the third day, like, you've eaten, you're like ready to go home. I remember, like, on those trips, because we were like, even I had to be disciplined with you and you were cut away. It made those last 2 days so much better.
Just thinking about them makes me so happy because if they felt like missions.
Yeah.
They felt like you're on a mission and you had to accomplish certain things before you could enjoy certain things. And I just get good. Like that, I have a bone chip in my elbow from the fight in Jamaica, and I've associated now that every time I feel it, I think of all the good times I had in Jamaica and all the challenges and all the missions.
Well, you know what I mean?
And all the delayed gratification and all the rewards after. They meant so much more.
So you brought up the point how the after party for Ben Askren, he said, like, dude, he's like, I've had bigger parties, spent more money, he said, like, you know, like that wasn't even close. To, you know, I've been at parties where there's celebrities everywhere. My brother's a big deal. He goes, and because of how much disciplined I was for those 8 weeks, because I hadn't drank.
And you're also on such a high of
self-accomplishment. He said, he goes, it was like, he goes, I've been in this lifestyle in California for years. And he goes, there was nothing like that feeling after that 8-week camp. And the party, he goes, the party was mid compared to the shit I've already experienced in my 20s. Like,
that's a serotonin endorphin high that, like, you know, you can.
And you feel like you deserve it. That's like our whole joke about the Thicc Boy thing. I'd rather suffer in the gym. Like, I feel like I deserve.
When we sit down, meat platter, all of it.
If I don't train that day, I don't feel like I deserve it.
Yeah. Actually, like days I don't train, I fast way more. I eat some fruit. Like if I didn't get a chance to train, I don't go crazy with
I literally associate like my meals with my training that day. Like I'll literally be like, what do I want to eat today? And then I'm like, sometimes like, all right, I'm going to stay and I'm going to actually train because I do want to go be fat tonight. And I think about it that way. You know what I mean?
What's the saying? Let everybody know.
Yeah. So it's better to suffer in the gym than suffer at the dinner table. So like,
train hard, think easy.
I'd rather spend an extra hour in a hot ass gym, whether it's at Delgado's or somewhere in Puerto Rico, whatever, Panama. Because you, like I said, those meals just feel better as opposed to, you know what it's like to go on vacation when you're not doing it, and for like 3 days you're eating and drinking. By the 4th day, you're just like you feel like crap. You know, I mean, you just do. You know, I mean, I guess I'll have another margarita. Like, it's just not the same, man. And so like, that's another reason I respect him so much, because I say like, what is driving him to work this hard? 8 rounds, like, bro, that is unheard of. Ask any pro boxer. All you pro boxers can admit that it is unheard of to fight a guy that good. Tommy Fury had nobody with a winning record. They were talking about Canelo on his 10th fight, and this is a kid who's been a prodigy since an amateur. Fought a guy who was 0-0. Like, Canelo had over 100 amateur fights.
That's how you create monsters like that. Even Floyd early on.
You see what I'm saying? So like, for you
even
not
Khabib. If you look at, have you ever seen Khabib's records? He was fighting on his dad. That's why it took him so long. He was fighting on his dad. Yeah, because back then the UFC actually used to recognize. They didn't know if these guys.
Like, to think there was a time where they looked at guys in Dagestan like, Sambo's weird. These guys are like. To think there was a time where they saw those videos and weren't impressed, and now it's just like a pure takeover. Now when I see a Mega Madoff or whatever, I'm like. It's like now
their biggest problem is just getting them over here with visa issues.
Yeah, like now I expect you to be a beast. Now if you're not a good wrestler, your name is Magomedov or something, it's like
I'm so disappointed.
Yeah, and to think there was a time where they'd be like, they're in the mountains somewhere, they don't know how to fight. Like to think there was a time, but like and same thing with his brother. But
granted, I was gonna say Khabib fought a lot of tomato cans before he got to like a certain.
It's just like in Brazil, like a lot of times, like a lot of these guys had to build up their record. But like for instance, his brother Logan, right? His brother just fought what's his name? Floyd Mayweather, right? Had this big payday, and they've been talking about how he's been like on like a binge the past month. And they did an interview of his brother before, and his brother like called him. It was like funny, but like I felt like it was like he was saying it for real, like, oh, you all you do is drinking and blah blah. Like you need to get back into the gym. And then later on, they talked about like those last few weeks he was just trained with Jake. And like I realized that like even when he fought Floyd Mayweather, he's made all this money. He seems unhappy because he wasn't training. Like he talked about it, like. He's been partying. He was in Ibiza. And like, dude, these guys are only 26. And it's like.
It makes me want to go back to the gym today, bro.
But you know what I mean? Like, what is it about somebody who's already had so much that you like, why? Like,
yeah, that's why I'm still impressed with Conor, regardless of how. I know he's lost his edge and he's not fighting. He still wants his peak, but he still wants it, and he's still going after the top guys, and he's still easily a UFC fighter, being able to compete on the highest. He's just not able to beat the top 10, top 15 guys, maybe. But like
I mean, like I said, his discipline is the issue, because I feel like if he wasn't drinking and eating chocolate covered strawberries,
I mean, it's a little bit of a skid when you create a whiskey that you're gonna.
I think he deserves it. I always bring up Floyd because it's like, to think, bro, they said to this day the man still has not drank alcohol, and it's like. It's because he's coming back. And it's like, my concern is this. And this is, you're going to think I'm crazy.
I know, let's just see what Conor looks like at Floyd's
age. This is my concern. Oh, well, yeah, it won't even be close.
It won't even be close.
I mean, even look at Pacquiao. We have to be honest. People forget Pacquiao's younger, right? But this is.
Oh, Pacquiao. We didn't even talk about Pacquiao.
This is peak, like, this might be a simulation. Now, people think I'm crazy. I can see a bad scenario where Floyd comes back too late and fights Jake Paul and loses. I'm envisioning this upside down world.
Just stop. I'm
envisioning it because I'm watching how this is playing out.
I don't think Floyd's dumb enough to take the risk. Then even if you,
I think he would. I fully think he would do it, bro. McGregor was mad quiet until this fight, and then he's posting pictures about salivating. And remember, he was playing off. and I keep bringing it up, he's playing off Jake Paul the way Floyd played him off. The difference to me is that, like, I think Jake Paul's the more disciplined person now. Floyd proved that no matter the age, discipline at a certain point.
Hard work.
I don't think Conor is more disciplined right now. And with that type of injury, so I'm watching this brewing in a weird way where, like, Floyd is going nuts.
It's crazy that Conor's apparently recovered already way better than Chris Weidman.
Money. I mean, come on, bro. You're Conor
Chris
McGregor.
Weidman, that was a brutal one.
I remember Conor. Yeah, his was
way worse.
Was worse, yeah. And he's older, and
he had complications. He had a second.
He just
surgery.
Doesn't have the same, and he's already had more surgeries in his life before.
Man,
Conor,
that guy had like back surgeries.
But he's moving around. I saw somewhere he's like.
I hope.
I see this thing. Do I want to see him in a MMA fight next or a boxing match?
A boxing match.
I'd rather see him in a boxing match. Yeah. I'd rather see him in some type of celebrity.
But the thing is, if they don't have the drawing power, they're gonna go to bare knuckle.
I know. Hey, listen, you know what's sad? I'm hearing bare knuckles paying guys better than some guys better than UFC.
What's the owner's name of David Feldman or something?
I don't know. I heard Chad Mendes is getting a better deal than he would have gone
guys.
back.
I just don't like seeing. But maybe it's just like a visual thing. But guys are getting their faces busted up.
No, it's bad.
It's bad.
It is. But I'm hearing the paydays are good. I heard Paige Van Zandt is making more money than she would have made in the UFC. I'm hearing. Now, obviously, you're that 1%.
Obviously, she's going to have to sacrifice her modeling career if she keeps bare knuckle boxing,
And losing at
that.
But, yeah, man, like, when I look at this situation, I look at it as a perfect example of, like, man, this stuff is life-changing. And you have people, and that's why the Woodley thing upset me, because it was like, bro, like, how much more would all of this been if you would have won the fight first, right? Like, what? And I feel like Paul set him up. I feel like Paul knew, like, he's not used to this attention. He's going to let it distract him. Yeah. I grew up in this. Yeah. It's like Bane. Like, I grew up in this shit.
Yeah. He pulled the Conor on him. He literally,
I think he drug him into a world. And they said the same thing with the Conor Floyd thing. They said they were doing weird shit to Conor at these events, like putting a new pressure on him. Conor did it to Aldo. You know what I mean? It's like when you're the one who's been around the fame, you use it to kind of distract.
But Conor was like, didn't realize that Floyd's been doing this way longer and way bigger,
And I feel like that's what happened to Woodley. Like, he got caught in the sauce. And I think because Paul has such an infrastructure already for his social media, he was able to do all this stuff from Puerto Rico. He had everything set. All his people are on the island. So he had the isolation, and then for 10 minutes a day,
he's doing it right. He's copying kind of the Mayweather playbook on, like, stacking all the cards in your favor. Yeah. And he should be doing that. I mean, the guy has only 4 professional boxing fights now. I mean, like,
bro, it's unheard of 10 minutes to do these little videos. Like, did you see after his open workout, they did a quick, like, 1 minute, like, TikTok thing? Like, it was funny watching it, because then when they edit it, it looks so much cooler. But then you watch it live from another camera, it's like funny, but then it's like, oh, this is genius, because now that's your week of content. Whereas Woodley is actually having to go to these places to do the interview. He's having to set up a Zoom. Like, he was the one doing the tour, and he seemed happy to do it. You're promoting your rap. Like, I feel like Jake.
Yeah, he came out to his song. He knew. Probably the most people that have ever heard his music was the walkout.
Listen, if you're his music manager, genius. I totally understand fusing two. If I'm your fight manager, we're not doing none of this shit until the fight's over. You know what I mean? Yeah. As your music entertainment guy, genius. Yes, intertwine them. But if I'm the one who wants to see you win the fight, I'm saying, all this waits after. Because
but I think Woodley already saw this as, like, this is my big payday. He's coming. He was literally fighting for payday, and there's a difference. I think
he thought he was gonna win. I think he looked in shape. To me, he looked in better shape.
Of course, I think every fighter always thinks that he can win, but there's a difference when you're just fighting for the payday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Dana White talks about it all the time. He's ruthless with it, but I think that's when he starts cutting guys. Is when he starts seeing that the guys are just showing up for the payday, and from his eyes, they're getting paid such larger amounts because they've been around for so long. He's like, I'm gonna get young guys that are ready to fucking kill for 10,000.
So perception should be that Jake Paul was a less dangerous fight. But ask yourself this: why do you think Jake Paul's doing this?
And what do you mean?
Like, why do you think he was willing to fight someone like Tyron Woodley when there's so many other people he could have fought with the same amount of attention he could have picked up? Like, why do you think he chose a dangerous, athletic? Why do you think he chose an 8-round fight? Like,
he wanted to prove something.
You know what I mean? Like,
he got a lot of things done in that fight. He proved a lot, you know. Even getting robbed.
I just have to respect you more when you're fighting for someone to prove than for a paycheck. And I love Tyron Woodley.
I don't think Jake is fighting for a paycheck. The guy doesn't need to fight for
That's
a paycheck.
my point. This is why
I was trying to say.
This is why I rate him.
You know,
I feel like a lot of fighters can learn from that. Like, man, why is this kid doing this when so many of you other guys are chasing money? You get distracted. You know,
it's like that thing. He's chasing something else, and the money's coming after that.
Exactly, and it's like so. Let's go with the next prediction. So let's to wrap up.
Woodley always wanted a payday. Remember, that's all he complained about when he was the champion. Right? He wanted GSP. He wanted all these guys. Right.
So who wins Vitor De La Hoya?
De La Hoya.
Okay.
I'm gonna say that because our boxing coach
I'm
says
gonna
that.
choose Vitor, hoping that him juice the gills is just a wave. Who does Anderson Silva fight next? And does it affect? Is it affected?
Maybe Logan Paul.
Okay. That actually kind of.
I want to see him fight Roy Jones.
And then who does?
I want to see him fight Roy Jones.
Next?
Let's just say Roy Jones.
Who do you think Jake Paul fights next?
Man, that guy has so many options. It's so hard to say.
So I think he either fights Anderson or the potential winner of the De La Hoya fight. And I think Logan. I think they're gonna piggyback on a double card. I think that's what we're gonna see is them piggyback a. Who gets the main event? I don't know.
You think they fight again this year, or you think they're done this year?
I could see Logan because how long it's been. Jake, I don't think he should. I would take the time off personally, but who knows, man?
Yeah, and just get better.
At 24, you didn't get dropped. After a couple weeks, he probably will get bored. Both Florida said, he goes, I didn't think he was going to come back after that first fight. He goes, I couldn't believe how amped this kid was to get back in the gym. He goes, that's when I realized, like, oh, this kid's not just playing games. Like, he said he was back in the gym like a week. He goes, I have guys who are real fighters who are hungry and poor who I have to chase for a month. Coach Raph, you know guys who aren't rich, who you have to chase around. He said this guy was blowing him up after a week, after his first experience. So I can
millionaire mindset.
I can see him getting the itch. So guys, give us your opinion on all this stuff. This is obviously a big topic. I mean, I hate to admit it, but this is I was very entertained with the fight. I thought it was a great card.
I never saw myself.
It was way better than the first Jake Paul card.
About a guy like Jake Paul. But
Showtime put on a great show. Montana Love had a great fight. The female fight, Dubois. So
that Puerto Rican girl.
Man, these are some good boxing cards. So give us your opinion on this.
And look what he did for female boxing. Put out the co-main event.
And next week,
great things.
Next week, we'll either have our guy Josh Hill in, Bellator fighter, or our coach Raf Delgado, and we're probably gonna be talking about this again then too. So give us your opinions, any questions you want us to address, anything like that.
And just to remind everyone, shorts dropped.
Bust them out. I know you see them. Those are the big boys for Panda. And the gloves. So we got gloves and shorts. Once again, shout out to Top Mutt Studios, all our sponsors.
Big up Phallon, Dunn.
Yep, and we'll see you guys next week. I'm Tyson the Beast.
I'm Boyan, a.k.a. Jake Paul, Tyron Woodley.
Relax.